fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Falcons at Panthers post-game special. I am your host, Kevin Knight, joined by my co-host today, Mr. Adnan Ikic. And whoa, my light's going crazy back there. Before we get into this, Adnan, how are you doing on this fine day?
I'm doing okay. Battling the elements a little bit, but I'm pushing through it.
Yeah. It's is it cold there in Atlanta this weekend? I think I heard that it was really cold there.
Oh yeah, it's been super cold this week. It's been, God.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that Dave lives like this up north.
So do I. I live in Syracuse. So.
Oh.
I think it's actually been the same temperature though somehow in both cities. But the temperature at the Falcons game, however, was quite warm because they heated things up, man. They blasted the Panthers off the field. It was a dominant performance by both sides of the ball. The offense was functional, better than functional today, I would say. It was a better performance than they gave against the Saints. But it was really the defense once again, right? Like the story of the day was the defense and how dominant they were on both sides of the ball, frankly, just shutting down the Panthers. 4 turnovers, 5 sacks, just incredible. So, I'll let you get the first crack at it. What was let's start with, our the thing that we enjoyed the most about the game, or the most surprising thing, whatever you choose to pick. But what was your big takeaway from this game?
They forced turnovers.
Finally.
I think they came into this game. Excuse me. I think they came into this game having forced, 4 turnovers on the season, or 3. They were by far last place in the entire NFL. And they forced 4 today. Like, today by itself. 2 of them were in the red zone. Kyle Allen was absolutely atrocious.
Oh, yeah.
He was completely exposed today. And I'm sure there's plenty of Panthers fans out there ready to maybe apologize to Cam Newton for looking at the offensive line that he's playing behind. The defense just didn't miss a beat from last week. And we went into this game thinking, all right, was last week just a complete fluke against the Saints? And if it was, it's okay because, it's
it would have been a nice fluke, right? Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But the defense, it's not. Like, the defense stepped up, and they were even better this week than they were last week. And I don't know whether or not to be happy or furious, because where was this all season? Where was this after the Titans game that I always keep going back to? Because there's nobody ever has any business making Marcus Mariota look like a competent quarterback. But, unfortunately, I think it's too little too late at this point, because the Saints have 8 wins, and they would need to win a maximum of 1 game for the rest of the season. The wild card isn't happening. You're not winning 9 games and getting into the playoffs in the NFC this year. Not with how the NFC West is looking. Not with the Vikings at 7 or 8-3 right now.
Yeah.
Either way, they have 3 losses. The Vikings also own that tiebreaker against us. So, that's not happening. But it's a nice thing to enjoy in the moment. The tankers of the world won't enjoy it, and the Chase Young dream is evaporating before us. But my thing is, if we're gonna win, you might as well win road division games by blowing your opponents out and just embarrassing them on their own home field. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, might as well put the fear of God into all your opponents and ruin, the NFC South's chances of making the playoffs. So
I guarantee you the Saints are scared of Thanksgiving night right now.
Yeah, because they're looking at dropping out of that. They've fallen behind Green Bay, I believe, in that race for the 2 seed, and another loss handed to them by the Falcons would probably, knock them even further out. Because I doubt they're going to win out. Even if they lose to the Falcons, I don't think they're going to win out the rest of their games. They do have some tough games remaining. I think they play the 49ers, for instance. Expecting them to lose 5 of their next 6 games, probably not likely. But we can still keep them from having home field advantage throughout the playoffs. We can keep them from getting a bye. There's a lot we can still do. Let's be honest, the Falcons also would have to win out all of their final 6 games, which is, probably not likely either. Just to even make this a remote possibility, they would still have to win out. And as good as they've looked these past 2 weeks, they've looked really bad the previous 6 weeks. So I guess I don't know when the other shoe is going to drop. If we're going to go back to seeing bad Falcons football, but as much as it sucks to lose out on Chase Young, and maybe the answer was we probably weren't going to get him anyway, because there's so many bad teams out there. Like the Bengals are probably going to go 0-16.
Oh, they're so bad.
Washington's really bad, and I think Washington could legitimately take him. Even the Jets, who are like the third worst team, put the whooping on the Washington. So it's it would have been tough for the Falcons to get into that top 3 that they would probably need to secure Chase Young. A trade-up is still a possibility, particularly with that extra second rounder, but I don't know. I mean, knocking them down into that bottom half of the top 10 could make an edge guy like a AJ Epinesa a lot better value. So they could still get a very good edge defender. It just might not be Chase Young. So
we're probably gonna have a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
We won't get Chase Young, but you're still supposed to get a very, very good instant contributor if you're in the top 10.
Yeah, I would think that they still would have their pick of a lot of good players. Probably the second best edge guy. There's a chance Derek Brown is still available at that point. So there are options for the Falcons, certainly, if they're picking in the bottom half of that top 10. But, we just have to give so much props to this defense for really just turning a complete corner. It was like a switch flipped, and all of a sudden, this is what we expected. I don't think we even expected them to be this good, honestly, but this is more what we were expecting going into the season. The pass rush should have been better. The secondary should have been better. They were healthy. This is what we should have had, last year. And then they suck for six games, and they're awful. And then the play calling changes. Really, it seems like the third down play calling changed, and everything's different. They're getting pressure. They're creating turnovers. I don't know. It seems too simple of a thing to really make that big of a change. Do you really think this is Raheem Morris's doing this big of a turnaround, or is it something else? Or
I think it's a number of things. One of which is positive regression to the mean, to the point where this defense was too talented to be that bad. And maybe they said a few weeks ago, and we haven't talked about it much, but Dan Quinn was changing the schemes and changing the cadences. So maybe that had an impact on it. Maybe he made things a lot simpler, because the thing about playing defense is you want to go out there and you want to be put in your position and you want to play. You want to go out there and make the tackle. You can't do that. It takes away from your edge if you're thinking beforehand, all right, am I lined up in the right position? I have to go line up here. And that's the problem with having a very complex defense. And if you do have a very complex defense and you can get it down, then, it's harder for the offense, but it's also harder for your defense to get down. I remember the 1985 Bears, their defense was actually pretty simple, the 4-6.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the greatest defense of all time, probably the greatest football team of all time. And I think making things simpler for the defense in terms of reads, cadences, I think it goes a long way, because these guys aren't thinking about, am I here? Am I in the right spot? What does this mean? What's this? They're just going out there and playing.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. And you're exactly right. If you have to think too much about what you're doing, you can't just read and react. You can't go out there and actually make the plays. The thinking should happen in the film room. The thinking should happen on the practice field. And then when you get on the field, you should be comfortable enough that you don't have to just, spend so much time considering everything that you're doing. Because if you're doing that, you're not playing fast and loose, and you're not doing what you need to do. But I don't know. It's honestly incredible how big of a turnaround has happened. It seems impossible that it could just be as simple as changing the third down play calls. But I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly where you ended up on the spectrum of is it a talent issue or is it a coaching issue as far as the team's 1-7 start. And I was very much in the coaching bucket. I think Evan was a little more mixed, and then I think maybe
I was completely in coaching, because this defense, I always said this defense was way too talented to be this bad, and that's why I've been pounding the drum for booting Dan Quinn this whole time, because you have playmakers on all three all three phases of the defense. You have Grady Jarrett, who's looking like an absolute all-pro this season, defensive tackle. Deion Jones, we know what he's done. He's one of the best young linebackers in the game. And then even in the secondary, you have guys like DeMonte Casey, who is being playing out of position, and that in of itself is a coaching issue. Casey should be playing free safety exclusively. And you have guys like Desmond Trufant, who, in fairness, was hurt these past few games. He got an interception today. Like, this defense has always had the talent, and I think Dan Quinn and his coaching have held them back immensely in that first half of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about it. Like, it's funny because now they're rushing 3 and it's working because the coverage is actually working behind it. But that was a departure from a lot of what Dan Quinn had done. The very, playing so far off in the secondary was kind of a departure. They still play off on some plays, but they've definitely been more aggressive with, using more man coverage concepts and things like that since Morris has taken over. And I think, honestly, one of the biggest things is moving KZ back to safety. I know someone tweeted that at us as well, and I agree with you. Moving KZ back to free safety, where he's just a free safety. Like, he just needs to play free safety. He looks great at free safety. He's got the range. He just has the instincts for that position. He's a hard hitter. Like, I think it's possible that he could be turned into a slot corner, but when he's playing so well at free safety, you just don't fight it. Don't fight it. Put him back there. And honestly, Ricardo Allen looks fine at strong safety. Like, he's not having, and I know he's not, the ideal candidate to play strong safety because of his size, but he's not having any trouble bringing down running backs. I mean, he, tackled McCaffrey a few times. I mean, he's fine there. And like you said, Trufant looks good in his return to action. Kendall Sheffield has been just really good for a rookie corner, a 4th-round corner at that.
Deal.
Yeah, he looks like the real deal. He's got elite speed, and they've coached him up to where he looks comfortable out there. And even Isaiah Oliver, I think maybe this might have been his best game of the season.
Oh yeah.
So
and with Sheffield, he should not, had he been healthy enough to run the 40 at the combine, he would not have gone in the 4th round, because you know how teams overreact to a fast 40, and Kendall Sheffield, no doubt in my mind, would have ran a 4.2 40, like late 4.2, like 4.28, 4.29. He was legitimately one of the fastest players in this entire draft class, and with that 40 time, I think Sheffield could have possibly gone late 2nd round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, what do you think about the theory that we've now seen? This may be a coincidence, but last week we saw I can't remember which team it was that blew the 28-3 lead in college.
Baylor.
I know Baylor was this week, but last week there was another
Michigan
team.
State.
Yeah,
Michigan State against Illinois.
So has the curse now been cleansed? We've passed it on to somebody else.
No.
Is that a coincidence that we just started being dominant? After some other teams lost 28-3.
Michigan State is a 5-loss college football team, and Baylor, while it had more at stake and on the line, this was a regular season college football game. We blew that shit in the Super Bowl. No, it's not the same. It's not on the same spectrum at all.
Okay.
And we also blew with 2 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. Baylor, they had the entire second half to blow it.
That's true. Yeah, it was way too early for all that talk. But yeah, I just needed to get your take on that. Sorry guys for bringing that up. But hey, so it might be a total coincidence, guys. Total coincidence. Yeah, I mean, we should definitely talk about the offense now, because I think that they were good, but they could have been a lot better. I just feel like Cutter is just not a fit for this team. I just think he doesn't know how to use these pieces. This is a zone scheme team, and he's just obsessed with these up the middle power runs. And of course, you're always going to work some power stuff into your offense. Nobody runs 100% zone or 100% power or whatever. But this is a wide zone, let's get out on the run type of offense. This is the personnel you have. This is the offensive lineman you have. And he's just in here calling runs up the gut. How does your running game look this bad against one of the NFL's worst defenses? The Panthers allow over 5 yards per carry on average, and I think the Falcons averaged 3 or something. So I don't know. I mean, was that as disappointing to you as it was to me? How he kind of botched this running?
I'm over Dirk Cutter for the season. This offense is still a Ferrari, and he's not driving it like a Ferrari. He's driving it like a Ford.
Right.
It's legitimately just basic blandness and vanilla. Just a run up the middle every like first down. That's obviously going to be like picked up by the defense. They watch film throughout the entire game. I don't think anyone is going to come in and do what Kyle Shanahan did with this offense, because Kyle Shanahan is proving to be the best offensive mind in all of football right now.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you need to come in and you have to be more innovative.
Yeah.
Look at some of the most exciting young teams, some of the most exciting young offenses, which are putting up bigger numbers in our offense and aren't nearly as talented or led by some of these great young coaching minds. Like, look at Arizona. They're putting up some numbers, and they're not nearly as talented as our team.
Right.
So that's something that we'll address in the offseason. And I hope Dirk Cutter isn't back next season. But I'm still holding out hope for a young, innovative mind to be our next head coach, and it's probably going to be Mike McCarthy.
I mean, just keep Dan Quinn at this point instead of hiring Mike McCarthy, right? Like, maybe
they said that Marvin Lewis is picking up steam for a head coaching job.
Oh boy, yeah.
We'll bring in Hugh Jackson as our OC.
There you go. Yeah. No, it's just it is what it is. Like, Cutter he's just not the right fit for this team. He just can't call a run game, like, at all. Like, he's never been able to. So, like, it was so weird. The hire itself was so weird when Dan Quinn, like, said, oh, we're going to emphasize the run game this offseason. And you hired Dirk Cutter, who's never once had a reasonable running game. Or when he did, it was because he had, Michael Turner, like, and great offensive line play and all this.
With the Falcons, Dirk Cutter with the Falcons, no.
In
maybe 2012, Michael Turner had 800 yards. That was old Michael Turner.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking of Mike Mularkey probably.
Yeah, he was run into the ground by Mike Mularkey. And then in Tampa Bay, he kept trying to feed Peyton Barber over and over again. Dirk Cutter, in fairness, has not had a lot of elite running back play, except for back dating his time in Jacksonville when he had Maurice Jones-Drew, who was an absolute all-pro.
Yeah. And
he also, like, ran Jones-Drew into the ground over there. But, yeah, it's the problem is that he had Jones-Drew a decade ago when it worked out. He's still calling running plays as if it's 2009.
Yeah. And that's I think the problem with Cutter's whole scheme is that it hasn't really, like, I'll give him credit, like, they did work in some play action this week. He tried to do some stuff with, like, reverses and rollouts and all that, and most of it worked. They, after, like, the third, reverse, I think it was maybe getting a little cute there, but so I do appreciate that, but it's like we're 11 weeks into the season, and you've, like, barely been able to incorporate any of the Shanahan things into this offense. The offense is not as good as it should have been, and part of that probably has to do with the offensive line play. I mean, they've been ravaged with injury. I don't think it's a coincidence that now that they have Jamon Brown and James Carpenter, healthy again, that the offensive line is better. Caleb McGarry has looked really good over these past two games.
And Lindstrom's on the horizon.
Yeah, potentially next week maybe, or the week after. I guess it depends on how quickly he's ready to go. But I think I remember that he could be eligible to be reactivated in week 12, which is next week, I think. Yeah, so
yeah, he's been practicing.
Yeah, so it's possible Lindstrom could be back. It wouldn't shock me if they sat him an additional week just to be double sure, but Lindstrom could be back. So the offensive line definitely had something to do with it. I just want more, from this offense. They should be better, but it's okay. It's not like a disaster, like it was against the Titans in week 4. So, I guess there's been some some progress made there. But yeah, this team is just really confusing. Just very confusing to me. I don't really know what to say. Obviously it's great to be playing winning football, because I think we were all kind of resigned to this dumpster fire for the next, remaining games, that we wouldn't see any good football from this team for a long time. And, it seems like maybe that won't be the case. And I have to admit, it's fun to watch winning football on Sundays and not just be cripplingly depressed by the product that we put on the field. And this team was never going to tank, but do you think, Adnan, that this might be sustainable for the rest of the season, or is this just week 2 of a continued happy blip here?
It's hard to say. I definitely don't think that the defense is going to be shutting out opponents week in and week out the way they have been. I don't think that this defense will be going out there and getting 5 and 6 sacks every single week. I think we'll have a happy middle between what we're seeing now and what we saw in the first 8 weeks. It won't be a complete dumpster fire, but they've also flipped to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So I'm kind of expecting a little bit of a regression back to the mean.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was what I think was happening to an extent with the sacks and turnovers, because they went a whole month without registering a sack and 7 games or something without a turnover, or an interception at least. And then it's in this game, last week 6 sacks, this week 5 sacks, 4 turnovers. Like, it's I think that some of their bad luck, some of what we saw in that 6-game losing streak was a lot of bad luck, especially with sacks and turnovers. Because by rates such as pass rush win percentage, which is a questionable metric probably, but the Falcons were getting pressure often. They just weren't converting it into sacks. So it's tough to say. I don't think they were as bad. Clearly they're not as bad as that losing streak, but they're probably also not as good as this winning streak. Obviously, we'll see here. We've got another division game coming up, the Bucks, which I'm hoping to be able to attend in person. So we'll see how the credential request goes. But that's another winnable game for this team. This is I think I called that one the most winnable game remaining on the schedule. So they could string together some wins here. I don't know, but it's
this team definitely flipped the switch in that second half against the Seattle Seahawks. So it's only right to credit Matt Schaub for everything that's going on now.
It was all Matt Schaub's doing. I should have known. But yeah.
All he needed was a chance.
All he needed was a chance. You're absolutely right. No, I mean, I know some folks are asking about some of the individual players. I thought Jaden Graham made the most of his opportunities. He only got 2 targets, but he caught both of them for first downs. He hustles out there big time. He's going out there on blocks. He played a little fullback too. I mean, I think Jaden Graham is a part of this team's future plans. I think he can be a tight end too type of guy. And he's a lot cheaper than Luke Stalker. That much is clear. What did you think about Jaden Graham's chance to actually get some targets in this game?
Oh, I like Jaden Graham. I've always been a Jaden Graham fan. And I'm here for Jaden Graham making the most out of his opportunity. It's what he did throughout training camp. It's what he did throughout all of preseason. He did nothing but impress in the preseason. That's why he's on this roster. And for how much it sucks that Austin Hooper is out, it does put up a little bit of a silver lining that another young man has this opportunity to kind of showcase himself in the NFL. And Jaden Graham, if he shows out well enough, then maybe he won't need to fight as hard for that roster spot next season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think with him showing that he can be reliable as that tight end too, the Falcons are probably less likely to spend a late round pick on a tight end, assuming they keep Austin Hooper. Because if they don't keep Austin Hooper, then they're probably drafting someone on day 2.
They don't know what they're doing if they don't keep Austin Hooper.
They have to.
Like, I understand not wanting to pay a tight end with a quarterback and a wide receiver and a running back and everyone that we're paying, but you can't reject all of those trades for Austin Hooper and then just straight let him go. You could have gotten some actual legitimate value for him.
Oh yeah,
at least a second round pick, maybe even. I don't think anyone was offering a first, but at the very least a second round pick, and then you just hold on to him for a meaningless second half of the season, and then you let him go. Like, that's it will be some questions if that happens.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think that's particularly likely. But let's see. Other guys, Brian Hill, kind of quiet day. I think he did get that touchdown that got taken back by a penalty. I think that was somewhat of a questionable penalty. You can't bring the guy to the ground. That was where the penalty was. I don't think it was actually a hold, but he was okay. I don't think Cutter really put him in a position to succeed with all those runs up the middle. But your thoughts? Do you think he can kind of manage the starting role, and do you think he'll be an upgrade over Freeman over these last 6 games?
I don't think Freeman will be out all 6 of these games. I think he'll be back eventually. But yeah, I'm a fan of going with a nice running back by committee out here of Hill and Ollison and Kenyon Barner, maybe Barner on third downs, depending on how good he is in pass protection or how good he ends up being. But yeah, I don't think Hill will get this bell cow role throughout the rest of the season, and I don't see why he couldn't, be the quote unquote leader of a running back by committee where the touches are divvied up among 3 players.
Yeah, I agree. And then speaking of Kenjon Barner, how about that 78-yard punt return?
Yeah, first one since 2014.
Yep.
In that 57-14 win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Devin Hester housed one.
Yes.
So that was a nice thing to see early on in this game, and it really set the tone throughout the afternoon because up until that point, we were up 3-0. Younghoe Koo missed a very close field goal, and then our defense went out there, got a stop, and after that Barner touchdown, it was just straight up a railroading.
Oh yeah. It was definitely kind of back and forth at that point, and that touchdown really changed the game in a big way. So that was nice to have. Nice to have a returner, a good returner, not just no offense, Justin Hardy, but you're not running any back for 6. But yeah, I mean, do you have any concerns about Koo after that missed kick, or do you think that's just kind of a blip?
I think the jury's been out on Koo the entire time. It was nice. I'm rooting for him, of course. It was nice that he got Special Teams Player of the Week, but I think every one of his field goals, except for one, has come from inside 40 yards. So, I mean, the jury will remain out on Koo until one, he hits a very pressure-packed kick, because that was his issue in San Diego.
Right.
He got cut because he missed 2 game-tying / winning field goals, and 2, until he can prove to hit one beyond 50 yards, because he's never done that in his NFL career.
Right.
And nowadays you can't have a kicker that's not kicking 50-plus yard field goals, because every team has that.
Right. Yeah, so we're going to have to – we'll see. He'll probably get an opportunity here at some point. It didn't really – the stars didn't exactly align, I guess, in this game for that to happen. But we'll get to see over the next several games whether he can, put that – I think his career long was a 48-yarder that he made with the Falcons last week, or he tied. So we'll see what happens there. That is an interesting thing to watch over the remainder of the season. I know people are asking if the Falcons can make the playoffs. I mean, technically, yes, but honestly, no. So, I mean, the Saints would have to lose all but one of their remaining games, and the Falcons would have to win out. And then they would win the division. So that's really the only route. Unless, every wild card team falls off a cliff.
Yeah, that's not
which isn't happening. The Vikings are going to be good, and then the Seahawks are going to be good. So there's, it's probably not. Neither of those are likely to happen. This is just a stacked conference. There's no room for any middling, win-loss team to actually get into the playoffs in this conference. Now, if this was the AFC, oh, hell yeah. There's a very good chance that 9-7 Falcons team could sneak in the AFC, but
yeah, and also just winning out in of itself, even if you don't need the help, that's a hard thing to do, because all it takes is just one bad day, and you're done. And that can happen to literally any team. There's every single team has had it out there where, they just chalk it up to a bad day. They bury the game film or whatever, and they move on to the next week. You can't have that. There's no room for that.
No. And they still play the 49ers. So.
Oh yeah,
so that's probably not going to work out. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I would just enjoy the good games while they last. Hopefully they'll last, and we'll get good competitive games the rest of the year, unlike we were getting over the last 6 weeks or so. Because it's a lot more fun to watch this team when they're actually competent. But hopefully still losing enough to keep that top 10 draft pick. So that's my hope, is that this team is fun to watch over the remainder of the season, but we still keep that top 10 draft pick. But we'll see. Obviously Quinn feels like he's sensed an opening here probably to save his job if he can win out or do something similar to that. And if he wins out, I mean, I guess it would be kind of hard to fire him because he would technically have a winning record. So that makes things interesting. I do think they should fire Cutter either way. I don't know where you're standing on that, but I just feel he's not compatible with this offense. Like, it's just not. That was not a good hire. We need to correct that either way. But
yeah, I'm not about keeping Cutter. I may not even be about keeping Quinn even if he wins out and we're 9-7. If this team, the only way that I would keep Quinn if we don't make the playoffs is if this team thoroughly dominates the way they have been these past 2 weeks, the remainder of the season. Yeah. That's the only way I do it. But I went into the season saying if we don't at least make the playoffs or even win the division, then I don't want Dan Quinn as the head coach next season, and I'm completely sticking by that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's tough because it seems like Blank really likes Quinn, and the players also like him. So I don't know. I mean, if it's us, cold-hearted fans, we'd probably do it one way. But Blank, has his reasons.
I mean, I would possibly be down to keep Ulbrich and Raheem Morris though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suspect that if Quinn sticks around, that Morris will get the promotion to defensive coordinator.
But it all depends on what the next coach would want. Maybe he wants, someone more experienced. What we've seen it throughout the NFL, where you have that young offensive mind and then a very experienced defensive coordinator who completely has full autonomy on the defense, like we see in Los Angeles with Wade Phillips and Sean McVay.
Yeah,
we saw it with Vic Fangio and
Matt Nagy.
Yeah, Matt Nagy in Chicago last season. So maybe who knows what'll happen.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
We're just completely speculating at this point. But Morris and Ulbrich, I think Morris will definitely be in serious consideration for defensive coordinator next season.
Yeah, he's earning a look from teams, certainly. So if those guys don't get their career continued here in Atlanta, I think that they'll certainly get a chance to stick on elsewhere because they've been doing good. And honestly, the run defense has been good all season, on a yards per carry basis. So that, with Jeff Ulbrich taking over in week 6, he deserves some credit for that too. But yeah, we'll just have to see how this team plays, over the remaining games, and that's how we'll have to evaluate them. But we shouldn't forget about the dumpster fire that was the first 8 weeks of the season, which prevented them from doing any sort of heroics to make the playoffs in the second half. They were so bad that they had no chance of making the playoffs in the second half, essentially.
Do you know how bad you have to be to miss the playoffs after winning out the entire second half of the season?
It's quite bad.
In theory, this team could end the season on an 8-game winning streak and miss the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah, this is like the reverse of 2015, where they were 5-0 and they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, Dan is coming full circle on that one.
We've come full circle. Yep. All right. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Adon, any last takes you want to fire off about this game before we head out?
I mean, I will say, like I said, it's not a tanker's dream, but if we're going to win, you might as well blow out your division rivals on the road. That's the most fun, meaningless win in football that you can have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, blowing out the Saints twice and preventing them from getting a high seed, I mean, that would almost make me want to keep them around. If you can just do that every year, that would be one of the qualifications of a great Falcons head coach. But
I would love nothing more than to condemn them to Lambeau Field in January.
Yep. Yeah, after that 3 seed, that's what's going to happen. So, all right. Yeah, I'm with you there. And then, yeah, I guess that's it for me too. I just I would like them to, this would be nice if they could keep playing well. and we could actually enjoy Sundays. And it's nice to write about a win instead of like 6 straight losses. It was getting very dark in the Falcoholic Slack chat, so it was darkness and despair there. So. And Soler raises a good point that we probably ruined Carolina's chances of making the playoffs by beating them today. So
I'm here for it, and we'll beat them again in Atlanta, so that'll really ruin it.
Yep. So that we'll bury them for sure, and then we get to go hopefully put it on the Bucks this coming weekend. So
we're going to be climbing that division ladder up to third place.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we already climbed it up to third place. We have 3 wins now. The Bucks only have 2.
That's right.
The Bucks have.
Don't the Bucks have 3?
I think they only have 2, but it's a very explosive 2-win team.
Yeah.
It does not feel like the Bucks have. Yeah, you're right.
They're but we have the edge because of division tiebreakers.
Yeah, but we're third because we're 2-0 in the division. But the Bucks, they've been a fun 3-7 team all season long. They beat the 49ers that one week.
Mm-hmm.
Or not the 49ers.
Yeah,
the Rams.
Yeah,
we thought the Rams were so good.
Yep. They're capable of just doing weird things and just beating a team. So I was hoping they would do that to the Saints today, but Jameis threw 4 picks or something, so that that didn't happen.
6.
Yeah. So that didn't happen, but whatever. All right, folks. Well, Adnan is on Twitter @SayWhичWay. Anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Watch out for my Fantasy Stud and Dud article. That's coming out later today. And congratulations to Matt Ryan for passing Warren Moon into 10th place on the all-time passing yards list. So that's quite an accomplishment for a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, it's possible he could pass Elway by the end of the year as well. So, so that would be cool. He would move up into 9th then.
And then he's looking out for, believe it or not, Eli Manning, who's 8th all time.
Yep. So he's closing in on getting into some rarefied air there, and he almost certainly will pass some of those guys. So, guys, I'm Kevin Knight on Twitter @Falcoholic Kevin. I did a draft-related article, so if you want more draft takes, look for that. I did that on Saturday. It's whether the Falcons should go after Alex Mack's successor this year in the draft, so drafting a center. I think that's a good idea, but you guys can weigh in with your own thoughts there. If you guys enjoy the show, please do throw us a like. That helps other people find the videos. And if you're not already subscribed, definitely do that as well, so that you'll get a ping every time we go live, which, for the record, is Wednesday nights at 8:10 Eastern. And that we'll be doing that, of course, again this week. And then post-game shows are the other time, like right now. So those are fun. We enjoy talking with you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday night, 8:10 p.m. to recap this game, a little more detail, and talk about another divisional opponent in the Bucks. And enjoy the rest of your Victory Sunday, folks, and we will speak to you again later this week. Until next time, I'm Kevin. He's Adnan. Enjoy the rest of your night, folks. Have a good one.